All right, it is time for Currently Reading Challenge weekly wrap up for week number 3. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. This is going to be my recap and wrap up for week number 3 for the Currently Reading Challenge May 2022. Now we're 3/4 of the way through the challenge. I can't quite believe it. I'm not quite ready to let it go, and I actually don't have to. I still have a whole week left, so I don't even have to be thinking about that. Anyway, if you are new to hearing about the Currently Reading Challenge, it's something that I do when I realize the number of titles on my Currently Reading is getting consistently pretty up there in the numbers. At the beginning of May, it was around 30. Last May, it was 38, so making progress. Anyway, so this is just about dedicating some time to specifically reading books on my Currently Reading. Each week, I pick 5 titles. I have 2 jars, one for nonfiction, one for fiction. I pick 5 titles, and that creates my TBR for the week. My goal is to read 65 pages a day, 5 days out of the week, for a total of 325 pages for the week. Let's see how I did. As always, I'm going to go through book by the least pages read to the most pages read, and let's start with the least pages read. So least pages read this week, or first up, let's go first up. Least pages read this week went to Daybook by Truitt. This is, the title's actually Daybook, The Journal of an Artist by Truitt. For this, I only read 40 pages this week, unfortunately, and I have 178 pages left. This one was a bit of a tough one for me this week. I really enjoy it. I actually was confused about it a little bit, though. There was something she said, and this is only my second time getting to this one. I started it, and then I realized there was another nonfiction memoir by an artist I wanted to finish first, so I probably should have taken it off my Currently Reading, but I didn't want to because I wanted to read it. So anyway, this is only my second time getting back to it, and I was already like, wow, I thought I didn't understand this. I thought she said that. So and also I will admit that this week I was very tired because I did have a trip between week 2 and week 3. I talked about that a little bit in my last wrap up. I went to visit my dad with my sisters, and it was a great visit. But it's trip and train rides and lots of family talking. Like, honestly, we basically sit at the table and talk like the entire time. Which was great, so I had a great time, but it does, traveling is not easy for me, so I had lots of rest and recovery time this week, which sometimes equates into lots of reading, but unfortunately for a work that's as compelling and interesting and that I really want to get a lot from as this work was, it wasn't a great match for my reading energy. So I only ended up reading 40 pages. I have a feeling when I come back to this, I might go back to the beginning and skim a little just to get myself more up to date on it. At the point where I'm reading, she's at it goes back and forth because it's a journal. So she's talking about where she is. Some of that time is like a retreat sort of place, but she's also thinking back to other times of doing art in other places she's been. And it's really compelling and really interesting. And like, I love discussions about art. So it's not, and art making. So it wasn't a good matchup for my time. Donna from the studio in the library has created a thread in her Goodreads group for this book. So if you're interested in reading this, that would be a great place to check in. And I am looking forward to seeing what people think. So, but I'm not, I didn't get very far in it. I think I was only like 17 pages in. So I'm now on like page 57. So I still have a lot to go. Or another way to look at it is a lot to enjoy. Okay, next up, I read 60 pages from Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I have 217 pages to go. So this one is on like many lists that I'm reading through, plus the author is Canadian. So, and it's speculative fiction and has something to do with Shakespeare. That's how I heard about it. Speculative fiction, something to do with Shakespeare. I started this in July 2020, and I did not know that part of it is set in and around a pandemic. So I started it. I read it for a week. I put it aside. I never came back to it until it showed up here. It never came up in the other rounds of the Currently Reading Challenge. I think it's actually good that I didn't come back to it till now, because now we are well further along in having vaccines and things like that. So there's, in summer, I think we got them in Canada more like December, I think. So anyway, but this also has a challenge where it has some themes that come up in survivalist works that I am not a huge fan of, especially as they concern or as they pertain to women. But I will say that it's actually discussed, and it's actually discussed in the way of that's not okay. So I appreciated that. This also does go back and forth between pre and post pandemic. So, and it follows a lot of characters. So, and I will say it did the magic thing that Canadian fiction often did, that I was reading. Okay, so this is interesting. These people are there, and that's going on here, and now we're doing this, and now we're talking about this, and then like all of a sudden I was invested, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, I hope everyone's okay. Oh, what's that mean? Oh, it's just like at some point I just totally got invested, and I call that the magic of Canadian fiction, which I probably totally stole from my sister Jamie, because she talks about that too. That it just somehow it just gets you at some point. You don't even realize it, and then all of a sudden you're in. So this again wasn't a great read right now. It also is I think it's going in a direction where I think I've hit the thing that people love about it, and I'm not always super fond of that, so I'm not sure how this is going to play out. It's a little different than I've normally seen it used. I'm being vague on purpose, but I can definitely see there is a lot to get from this. But I will say when I come back to it, I probably would be better to just stick it all the way out, because there are a fair amount of characters and a fair amount of timelines, and I've finished up until a new section, and I have a feeling it's better to, once I get back to it, to stick with it. This is not one that I think my reading experience fared well from having so much time apart, and that's a risk I take in the manner and the fact that I read so many things at the same time. Some things get left to the side. So I am optimistic that I will be able to finish this, whereas before I was kind of feeling like I don't know if I could, not from a quality perspective, just from a thematic perspective, especially the survivalist stuff. But I think it is going to be worth it. So I will have to pick sometime this year to finish this, because I do want to finish it by the end of the year. So maybe more like the fall. I don't know. We'll see. 217 pages left. I think I can probably manage that in 2 weeks or so. So at some point, I feel like I can finish that. So that feels like a win to me. Next up, Let Sleeping Vets Lie is the next in the series of how many pages I read. Wow, that's not what I normally say. Anyway, I read 100 pages from Let Sleeping Vets Lie, and I have 0 left to go. I finished this one. I was not surprised. This one I actually had been reading a little bit throughout the month. This is a nonfiction memoir by James Herriot. This was made into the TV series All Creatures Great and Small. This is the 3rd book in the series, and it was a delightful comfort read throughout this week. This was much better suited for my reading pace than this, partially because it is the 3rd in a series, so I'm now very comfortable with the author's writing, and also it's just small vignettes of 1930s vet life in England, and it's just wonderful. The different animal issues and life issues and relationship stuff, and just sort of all rolled up into one. But generally speaking, the chapters are sort of vignettes about either a particular visit to a particular farm or something, or, meeting someone new within the vet community or the social community. And it's just really lovely. So I'm really thrilled about this. So I get one finished, but I have to be honest and say that this is not really going to reduce my currently reading, because I am going to go straight on to the 4th book in this series, and I'm going to start it. I'm going to admit it. I'm going to start it right away, because I want to be done by the end of June. So because I'm also in the middle of the audiobook of book 1 and 2. And that was one of my problem titles earlier this month, and so I want to finish book 4 so that I can go back to book 1 and 2, because I'm reading these. It's all incorporated into how I read book to TV adaptations, because book 3 and 4 match season 2, which I've already seen. So with book to TV adaptations, I like to watch the season first and then go back and read the books. So I finish this, okay, and then I need to finish book 4, and then I'll be caught up with wherever the TV series is, and then I can finally go back and listen to the first audiobook, which is narrated by the actor from the show. I know that is just such a big rigmarole, but Sometimes I am set in my ways at times, but I'm thrilled that I finished it. That was the perfect read for this week. Next up, I read 134 pages from Loose Lips, Sink Ships by Katrina LaCroix, and I have 0 pages left. I finished this one. Fortunately or unfortunately, this ended up being the perfect pick for this week because I have to, and I don't normally say these kinds of things about reading, but I wasn't terribly invested in the book. I didn't enjoy it very much. It's a YA contemporary dark comedy that mostly centers around a couple that's broken up and the things that they do to try and get each other back, which often end up hurting other people. They don't care about hurting other people. And I feel like it's a male-female relationship, and I feel like the girl really doesn't care like if she hurts people. And the guy, I couldn't understand why he did almost anything that he did. There are so many things in this that are completely inappropriate, without question. It is a dark comedy, so it's going there on purpose, but like just well beyond what I was, especially because they're teenagers, like they're high schoolers, and I'm just like, you know, like, and I think one of the least shocking is like interactions between a student and a teacher on the low level of surprising and not appropriate. So I don't know. Anyway, this is one of the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR. I only had 134 pages left. It's only 175 pages. I finished it, so I get a win for the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR, which is a goal that I am well behind on this year. I do not think I'm going to make my target. So and this was one of my TBR jar picks, I think for the 3rd or 4th set, one of the later sets. So I do get a lot of goals for finish this, and it wasn't a lot of pages. And this week it was kind of great to be able to read something and just roll my eyes at it and just be like, this is so ridiculous, and just react against it and just be like, I can't believe this is happening. So I will also say though that there were some racist comments in this, but they were challenged, and I was surprised to see that. So the person who says them was confronted is a stronger word, but there is in there, hey, this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing that, stop. Unfortunately, it happens more than once, and it feels like the challenge of it was kind of copy pasted. So anyway, effort was made, I think, to sort of rectify that, but it's also presented in the first place. So I don't know. I am not the target audience for that. And I would say I, even just with that expression, gave a more favorable response than a lot of other people. The Goodreads reviews on that are wow. Wow. But dark comedy, I don't, you're going to ruffle some feathers. So anyway, so that was the 4 books that I had on my list. I also had one problem title, and that was Outlander Season 1. The goal was to finish it, and I watched 5 episodes, and I have 0 left. I did finish Season 1 of Outlander, and I get, again, like with Loose Lips, Sink Ships, there are a lot of goals related to this title for me. I carried it over from last year. I actually carried it over from the year before. Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with books? As I said, with the All Creatures Great and Small, with TV series, I like to watch the TV series or the season related to the book and then read the book. So Outlander by Diana Gabaldon is on many lists that I have. It's actually on like those books, Sci-Fi Fantasy and Weird, Vaginal Fantasy. It's one of the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR. And at some point, I did read the first 60 pages like 10 years ago, well before the series, well before the series. So I had watched the first half of the series the first half of season 1 when it came out, and then I didn't have access to the second half right away, and it just took me a long time to get back to it. Obviously, I can't even remember when this came out. My goodness, it doesn't have it there, but it's been a while. It's been a while, at least maybe 5 years. So I finally finished it. I think this is a romance time travel historical adventure. But honestly, I still find it really challenging to watch in terms of the level of sexual violence in this show. And as the season went on, I feel like it's in almost every episode, either the threat of, the act of, or flashbacks of. And there are more challenges with it. And I felt like it demonized something, and like, but I can't get into it without spoilers. So I was really disappointed with that. And I don't know. Also, because this is such a popular show and such a popular series, I have been spoiled for things that are well down the line, like well down the line, like books and books later and seasons later. So I'm kind of at a bit of a weird spot where I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. But the goal for this week was just to solve the problem of finishing the season, which I did. Now, I will give kudos to the show that it is gorgeous. The intro almost makes me cry every single time. The art direction, the costuming is amazing. I think the acting is great, and I am curious about the sort of extended cast for like season 1, like in the time travel backwards in Scotland, and that is something that may draw me to reading the book. In the heart of it, there is this romance theme and everyone seems to, when people talk about it, everyone just talks about Jamie, who's the male character in the time travel backwards Scotland, like the Highlander, and I get it, you know, great casting, good actor, so much heart in his character. I understand it, but I find it weird because it's like there's so much else going on, and so I don't know. So I am not sure what to do, but I don't need to know what to do next. What I needed to figure out this week, the goal of this week was to solve the problem that I was in the middle of the season. I solved that. I have finished the season. Now I can read the book if I want to. Of course, this year I'm trying not to read like books that are like over 300 pages, and I have lots of books I'm currently reading that I still have 400, 500, 700 pages left. So reading an 800-page historical time travel romance is not in the cards for this year, but it is available to me should I wish to read it. So will I, won't I don't know, but I'm thrilled that I finished that. It really was weighing on me, and I don't usually, I think it's the show is an hour long. It's very intense. The sexual violence, again, like it's so prevalent, and I'm so surprised that so many people enjoy it, especially about the romance, where there's this really harsh content throughout. I mean, I just find that surprising. It's not something I expect to see in a romance. So, but maybe maybe I am miscategorizing it as romance. I think it's because everyone feels Jamie is so swoon worthy, you know, and I get that, but it's just, I don't know, it's super intense, and you know, so we'll see. I am not sure what to do. I don't need to decide that. I solved the problem. And that's 3 weeks in a row of having not only picking a problem title, but solving the problem. 2 of the 3, I actually, it's totally off the list, and I still have one to, you know, I know what to do next, but still need to take action, but that won't be till December. That's All Creatures Great and Small. So anyway, so that was a lot of Outlander talk. Yeah, I guess I'll have to see what I'll do. It's definitely one of those things that I do feel also a bit FOMO on, and I feel like I might have missed the boat on this. Like, honestly, this is a show that, you know, it's in its 6th season. It's also been renewed for a 7th season. So do I want to follow it? Do I not want to follow it? Do I want to be part of the conversation? Do I want to pick other conversations to be a part of? I don't know. I haven't decided. I don't need to. So if you add that all up, the grand total of the pages that I read this week was 334. So I did meet my page count goal, but only just. And in some ways, I'm a little surprised about that. Where's the list? So we have, so Sunday, it was a travel day, so no reading then. And then I read mostly for 4 days. I thought I would read Monday to Friday, but me being who I am, I wanted to be done my reading by Thursday. So I got 72 pages, 85, 83, and then 94. The 2 stars indicate the 2 finishes. So only 334. So it's not a huge amount of pages. But if you add Outlander, that's 5 hours of TV watching. And at a page an hour, I think that's 300 pages. So double. So anyway, but I am happy with it. I got 2 finishes in. I feel really thrilled about that, and I think that the week did go well. I do feel a bit badly about Daybook. It just wasn't a great fit for my energy this week, but that happens. That's okay. I can always go back and revisit what I missed, or ask someone, because there is something I'm a little like, I thought she said this and now she's saying that, and I thought maybe I read something in the introduction and thought it was the author, and so there was a little confusion there. So in terms of, I did read some other stuff, if you can believe it. I actually did read some other stuff. I read 34 pages of Les Miserables. I actually hit page 704, and this is 1,304 pages. So 600 pages to go. I have passed the halfway point. I'm really, really happy about that. I'm currently reading this 3rd section, and you can see I'm very close to the end. I am hoping to finish it by the end of the month. So, and I'm really, this one has not gotten picked. 3 weeks and it has not gotten picked. It is in the jar, but I'm committed to reading 25 pages a week so I can finish it by the end of the year. In terms of my buddy read, I also, I read The Ersatz Elevator by Lemony Snicket. The live show for this will be, I think, tomorrow, May 24th on Izzy Channel's Punk Rock Girl PA. So we read book 5 and 6 this month, and I really liked The Ersatz Elevator. It was a really fun reread for me. I did read the series back in 2018, I think, with Izzy, and I'm reading it now with Izzy and Kay Kelly, and it has been so much fun. So I did read, and what else did I read? There was something else. I'll just say them very quickly because I think I rambled a little bit there. My visual book for the week was Usagi Yojimbo, volume number 11, Travels with Jotaro. I really like this one. This is Jotaro, and he's traveling with his uncle Usagi, who's the protagonist of the series. So this is a rabbit who's a Yojimbo, and adventures and fighting and travels, and I love this series. And I'm thrilled that I switched from the sagas to the volumes, because the sagas are about 600 to 700 pages, and the volumes are about 250 pages, and that's a much more manageable reading volume for me. Why do I keep saying volume? Anyway, that was my visual work for the week, and then my romance for the week was At the Duke's Service by Carol Mortimer. I am reading through some of the Harlequin Undones, which are historical novellas, and this one was not my favorite, I will say. This one followed a woman. So it's a male-female romance. The woman arrives at he's a duke, at his house at some point. She's, I guess, come of age, and she was a friend of his father's who, when her father passed away, her father said, "Can you take care of my daughter? Make sure she's taking care of her," whatever. And he passes off those duties to someone else, who ends up sending her somewhere to be trained as a mistress. So, like, in some ways, they're sort of like funny shenanigans, but if you think about that literally, not so good. And I know it's a historical romance. I can't remember what period it is. Might have been Georgian. Like, if you can take it as funny, great. For me, I wasn't quite in the place to take that as funny, that her sole training was basically not to be his mistress. So anyway, there's pretty good chemistry between them, and there is some fun stuff. It is pretty short, and I'm finding the Undones really great to try authors. I actually have read Carol Mortimer before with a different work, which I liked a little bit better. So I think she's written quite a few for the Undones. And but that's been fun too. And those I can usually finish in a week, which is why I'm in particular reading them this month. So there you have it. There is how week 3 went. I think all things considered, given this was the week after my trip, it ended up being great. I had more rest and recovery time, which meant getting flying through some stuff like Loose Lips Sink Ships, and then the comfort reading of Let Sleeping Pets Fly was great, and also to be able to watch those 5 episodes of Outlander. Like, I just decided one a day. I just decided I'm just gonna, and then I watched the last 2 back to back, and it was heavy. I don't know what to do there. I don't need to decide. I just get to enjoy the fact that I completed it. I am going to just sit with that for a while, and because that is, for me, is quite an accomplishment. I watch a fair amount of TV. I don't always have trouble finishing stuff. This one, I think I need to process it a little bit more and see what I want to do next, but this week, it's all about the win. So that's 2 finishes plus Outlander. I think, you know, even though I just skimmed the page count goal, I'm feeling really, really happy with those successes. So that's how week 3 went. My TBR will have been already posted yesterday, and I have another video ready to go for this week. And I think next week I will do a wrap up for the week on Sunday, and then later I'll do a reflection on the month. So I do have more videos in the mix coming up. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon with more videos. Take care.